So we're going to get started with our capital improvement projects. Health and Human Services. I think this is something, when the city and county of Broomfield, back in 1997, there was a grassroots committee that thought we need to do something different. We need to create our own city and county and school district. And this came from a 1995 comprehensive plan. In fact, city and county of Broomfield just set up a committee, about 20 people, and we're going through the 2015 update to our master comprehensive plan. And it's something that we do every 5 years, or 10 years, excuse me. But back in 1995, one of the things that was talked about was becoming our own county. And when I look at the Health and Human Services building, this is kind of coming to fruition, because one of the main things when that committee started, the Citizens for Better Local Government, it was access to health and human services. So now the city and county, because the way we've been able to save money by being a county, combining some of our services and having reserves up to 16 weeks, we were able to cash flow this project. And I think that's important to know, because when we started with the county, we had to bond things like our jail and our courts, but this project's actually being cash flowed, which means we're not borrowing any money for it, and it will be completed next year. So, and I would suggest to staff, Charles, who's here, Charles Izaki, that we invite some of those people that were on the Citizens for Better Local Improvement and the council members that were there at the time, the Hank Stovall, Bill Behrens, that worked so hard to get this project going. We should invite them for that grand opening. Lowell Boulevard project. We hear about this a lot. This is underway. We're widening that road, and it looks like it'll be done probably this year, next year. So that's always something people want to know, where the money's going. So we're just kind of highlighting some of the major projects that we're doing. Another one that we hear about is Dillon Road at 144th. Always a challenge getting traffic. You know, Broomfield is challenged with traffic going from east to west. So we're always looking to do improvements east to west. We're pretty well covered north to south between I-25, Sheridan 287. It's the east to west traffic that we need to continually work on. So we got Dillon Road improvements on 144th, and you're going to be construction on that the next coming years. Transportation. When you get elected mayor, one of the things you find is that you kind of get to go do a lot of the discussions and things for the city. One of the things that you get to work on, there's a mayor's commissions coalition on US 36. And one of the things that's been worked on by previous mayors and everyone else is the US 36 express lanes. This is the one project that I would have to say the Denver Post and the Denver Biz Journal did a really disservice to Broomfield. In fact, I was up at Colorado County Sync this last week, and they had the editor, Neil Westgarden, up there speaking, and it was interesting. The first thing he said, "You as public officials, have you ever had a newspaper article that was incorrect?" And I'm thinking, yeah, yours. Because what they did is that US 36 managed lane, what did they come out and tell you? The tolls were going to be $17.68. So immediately everybody thinks $7.68 on this road. And what they didn't realize is that there's two lanes here, the same two lanes that we had before, they're free. So you have an option if you want to toll yourself. But you also have an option for bus rapid transit, and Audrey's going to talk about this later. But I think it's important to know that original figure of $17.68, that's a 2017-2018 projection. Currently, it's going to be $13.68. Now, how do you get your prices lower? Number one, you buy a transponder. You immediately cut it in half. It goes down to $7.68. The other thing that those articles didn't talk about is the 7-mile bidirectional lane that's already tolled between Pecos and downtown Denver. So you take that $7.68 and you take off that $4, this is at peak travel, now you're down to about $4 between Boulder and Pecos on a toll lane. That's not quite so bad. But you know, it doesn't get headlines to say, hey, this is a good deal and it's the cheapest toll road in the United States. There's other toll roads that's about 75 to 95 cents per mile. Ours is a lot less than that. So anyway, I just kind of get off my horse there. But I did talk to Neil Westergarden after the meeting, and he directed me to a gal named, I think it's Kathy Proctor, and they were going to write another article for us talking about the toll lanes to get it right, because I think it's a disservice for all the work that people have done to get this project moving, not to advertise it correctly. West Connect. Interesting project. You know, you look at all the other metro areas in the United States and you look at a map, if you go look at the atlas, and you'll see a complete circle around them. Everywhere but Colorado and Denver. You know, we basically, you come over here to 36, come back over here, and we've got Pac-Man. That's nuts. So we've been working on that. Last year at Colorado Counties, when I was up there, I was meeting with the Jefferson County Commissioners where, you know, predominantly West Connect goes through. And we were talking about it, and they said, how can we get this project moving forward? And I referred back to the US 36 mayors and commissioners along US 36. Well, what we need to do is we need to get a coalition. We need to get everybody along those community stakeholders together and form a coalition. And as some of you know, places like Golden and Superior were totally against it. They didn't want that road to go through. But what we did is we started a coalition. Jefferson County headed it up, Don Roser, and we came up with West Connect. And the idea was to go from Broomfield all the way down to and connect with 470 and Golden. And so we started the meetings last year and asked all the stakeholders, Golden, Arvada, Jefferson County, Superior, Broomfield, even Westminster's there. We got together and we just talked about we need to connect this, and everybody agreed. So we did a charter and we talked about consensus. Surprisingly, the first community to sign the charter to do the West Connect, this is hard to believe for the council members that are here, was Golden. But that's what happens when you talk and you go find out what their problems are, what their issues are. In their case, they didn't want cars traveling 75 miles an hour through Golden. Quite frankly, we don't want cars going 75 miles an hour through the mall. So there will be zones along the West Connect that are 45 miles an hour. So you just got to talk to people and work with them, find out their issues. So the West Connect started a year ago. This year, we've got $2 million that we're working with CDOT, and we're working on, we got a facilitator, so we're looking at alternatives how to best do this project. So that is moving forward, and that's good news for Broomfield. North Area Transit Alliance. This is a project that I originally got on in 2007, and the reason we started this is there was some of us get together with the Adams County Regional Governments, and Eric Hansen was the mayor of Thornton at the time, and we looked at fast tracks. In 2004, the citizens voted to tax themselves. You know, that's pretty important. Citizens voted to tax themselves to have transportation improvements. But what we found is that we weren't getting a lot of money. That money was all going down south. You remember T-Rex? Everything was being south of I-25. So we decided back then we needed to have a coalition, so we started the North Area Transportation Alliance and put that together, got a charter. You've got Thornton, North Glen, Adams County, Broomfield, Federal Heights, Westminster. There's probably a few I'm forgetting. But we put that together. Last year we broke ground on the North Area, or the North Commuter Rail, and did the station up there. And this year we keep on working, and I would bet you on US 36, I didn't mention it, but US 36, part of that fast tracks is a commuter rail coming up along US 36. Well, that's we might have funds for that in 2042. But what we've been working on is people want rail to Broomfield. And I would bet you money that we're working on a project right now to take the North Commuter Rail and move it into Highway 7. I would put money on it that you will see rail connecting us to the metro area system up on Highway 7 long before you see it on US 36. We're working on it now. We're working on various RTAs, how to get that done, but there's a lot of progress on that. In fact, Highway 7, I just want to mention Highway 7, when I was here at Eggs and Issues last year, we were talking about Highway 7. Again, I mentioned the east-west corridors are a mess. Well, I thought it would be a good idea to try to go get all the communities along Highway 7 between Brighton and Boulder. So I called the mayors of Brighton and Boulder, the county commissioners from Boulder and Adams County, the mayor from Thornton, the mayor from Erie, the mayor from Lafayette, mayor from North Glen, actually has a piece up there, unbelievable. And I got them together and we started the Highway 7 Coalition. Took me about, what, a month, Deborah, to get that done? And we already got funding through Dr. Cog to do an RTD rapid transit system between Boulder and Brighton. So that's pretty good success, negotiating with our neighbors, and that's why I say as a mayor, you kind of get the advantage. You can go out and talk to your neighbors and get things done. But what's nice is we should have a nice, continuous, a lot of continuity. The curb cuts will be the same and those type of things. And that's new, because usually what happens is CDOT tries to come in later, like on 120th, and try to figure out how are you going to get these roadway improvements. You go from 2 to 4 to 2 to 4 on your roadways. Wouldn't it be nice to get ahead of the ball game for once? And I can tell you on Highway 7, we're ahead of the ball game. So it's nice, because that's where a lot of the growth of Broomfield will be. The 120th connection, we live and breathe this every day. The Wadsworth Overpass, the 120th connection, when Betty and Clark and I were all in council together, we were told that this would take about 30% of the traffic off of the overpass. So that project's underway. We're doing the final phase. We finally got the right-of-ways done with Burlington Northern. That road's going to go underneath. We got that done in construction. Kevin, when will that be done?
End of 2017.
End of 2017. Kevin Stammer, Charles Zadaki with city staff. They're always here to back me up. Go ahead. All right, now we're going to talk about enhanced Broomfield. I'm way behind in my notes. All the notes I had written down, I haven't even read them yet. You're lucky. Okay, enhanced Broomfield. I was so excited about this project last night. We had a business in, and they were the second item on the agenda. And I obviously was familiar with enhanced Broomfield. It was like the fourth or fifth item in the agenda. And I told the group there, I said, hey, you guys really ought to apply for one of these grants. And I realized we hadn't even approved it yet on council. It's classic. Can't make that up. So, but one of the things we did, council every year does priorities. So we get together in January, February, predicated on schedules when we can get them done. And the council kind of goes around the room and everybody shares what their focus items that they would like to see us work on for the upcoming year. So this is what directs staff time, what to work on that we're going to try to get done. One of the things that we wanted to enhance was our small businesses. So one of the programs that resulted from this is the Enhanced Broomfield Project. And this is going to allow small businesses to come in, put in an application. They can do facades on their building, they can repaint, whatever. There's an application that they turn in, and depending on how long they've been in business, they can get $1,000 to $25,000 to get projects done. The city currently has $4 million that we have set aside, for these small type projects. And we've used some of that money. For example, we redid the entryways over at Flatirons Mall a few years ago with part of that money. I am hoping that this is a wildly successful program. And I actually hope that $100,000, I mean, you could have 4 companies come in and that could go pretty fast. I hope our problem is that we've got 7 or 8, 9 companies that come in and want to do something, and that staff has to come back to council and say, hey, this program's wildly successful. We're going to need to raise the budget. So that's my plug, Charles. Broomfield population projections. This is crazy. This number 62,000 isn't correct. We're currently around 68,000 people. Just so in case you want to know, if you go to Wikipedia and you just log in how many cities are over 100,000 people, any guesses how many cities have over 100,000 people? 295. 295 cities have over 100,000 people. At our current rate, we've got 3,000 projects underway at an average of 1.67 people per unit based because along this unit. By 2020, we're going to have over 75,000 people in Broomfield. When we reach the 75,000 plateau, Broomfield will be pretty close to the 500th largest city in the country. Hard to believe. When I moved here back in I didn't move here. I came along with my parents that drugged me along. I was like 7. In 1966, there was about 6,800 people. It's hard to believe that there'll be over 75,000 people in 2020 in Broomfield, and we will be one of the top 500 cities, populous cities in the country. So that's where we're going. Actual build out changes because one of the things when we first started talking about build out, we didn't really talk about transit-orientated developments like we have here and the rest of other places. But I think our build-out's probably going to be around 125, 130. So eventually we will be one of those 100,000 populous cities. Okay, safe community. We got a new police chief this year, Chief Krieger. And I got to tell you some things about Chief Krieger. Arvada was kind of upset that we took him. And that's okay, because we like him. But one of the things I will say for the chief is he has dived in to the community. He came to the city council meeting, and when he came to the city council meeting to talk about safety, he brought 8 officers from various departments with him. So he likes to share things. He likes to get others involved. And speaking of involvement, just in the last few weeks, I've seen Chief Krieger at the Rotary's golf and police fire charity tournament. And this is a tournament the Rotary does, so if a police officer gets hurt in some ways, we can help cover those bills and stuff like that. That tournament over 10 years, we have about $120,000, $130,000 in our checking account to help police and fire that get injured in the line of duty. That's a great deal. So he was there. He was at the Relay for Life last Friday. He was at the Broomfield Trail Adventure on Saturday. He is a real community guy. And so if you get a chance to meet Chief Krieger, I suggest you do it. We're pretty lucky. We have one of the lowest serious crime rates. We're the 5th safest city in Colorado. And if you look nationwide, we're probably the safest community in the United States with a mall for crime rates. And that's pretty amazing. Of course, you know, our Broomfield Police Department was smart enough to locate a branch up there at the mall, and that's made a big difference. But generally, you know, malls are high crime areas, and ours isn't compared to others. Civic Center. This is another thing that gets a little bit misconstrued, so I want to bring it out. The whole idea of the Civic Center is a meeting place. It's a gathering place for a lot of different things. Years ago, the Civic Center was created, and we found a place inside of Broomfield. We have the City Hall there, you got council chambers there, you got the police there, you've got the courts there, you have the library there, you have the auditorium there, you have the Denver Metro, or the the North Metro Fire District there, you have ball fields there, you have an amphitheater there. That whole area is the Civic Center. Currently, we're working on another component of that Civic Center, the retail space. So we're working on trying to figure out how to get that, Safeway space. I get asked about that all the time. Yesterday I was at the opening of the farmer's market. 2 people asked me, what are we doing with the Safeway space? Well, we're trying to get that figured out. And if we get it figured out, we're going to have a mixed-use commercial in that Civic Center space. And kind of what we're looking there is for, you know, some small, local, mom-and-pop type businesses in there, and a real community feel. But it's just a component of the overall Civic Center, and I just want to emphasize that because the City Council has been working on overall Civic Center for a long time. All righty. One day, I walked out. There's another project in Broomfield called One Book, One Broomfield. Pretty successful project. In fact, this is the 10th anniversary of One Book, One Broomfield, by the way. And I was at the meeting. As mayor, I get invited to a lot of things. This one's kind of fun, One Book, One Broomfield. And my wife is a voracious reader. I'm a sparse reader because I read so much city stuff, I don't have time for a lot of books. But what happened is I walked out of the library one day, and I remember as a kid riding to the Mammy Dowd Eisenhower Library that was up at the community center, city center, whatever, garden center. I remember riding my bike, you know, you read 20 books over the summer and you got a bookmark or a little plaque or or whatever. And I walked out of one Broomfield. I've been part of the Open Space and Trails Committee. I'm also one of the board members for the Broomfield Open Space Foundation. And it occurred to me, we've got a healthy initiative in Broomfield. We're trying to get healthier. We're one of the fittest cities already in the country. But it occurred to me, why not come up with a program to try to get kids to walk the trails? That was my original idea. How do you get the kids to walk the trails? So I brought it over to Pete Dunleavy. I caught him in the parking lot, and I asked him what he thought of my idea. Well, he loved it. Okay, great, I got one on my side. He went and he explained it. We had a meeting set up with city staff, and we had 20 people in the room. We had the GIS department, the publicity department, the graphic department, everybody else. It might have been my idea, but I tell you, any idea, you got to have a great staff to make it come to life. And this passport that they did, showcasing all the various sites, all the trails, we got 100 miles worth of trails in here, is a testament to how hard and how well our staff works together on a project. I can't say more good things about the staff, Charles. You guys do a great job. And so if you haven't done so, we had the trail adventure you heard me allude to this weekend. We ran out of passports. Can you believe it? Over 300 people came and picked up passports. We already had 300 people online register. You can still register, you can still walk the trails. Several council members are going to be heading up trails. I've been asked, and I will be leading a trail. I know the Chamber of Commerce wants to have a small business day at the trails, so we'll probably be looking at Trail 8, Jennifer. That's where it goes through the Interlochen Business Park. And that's a good thing. This is fun. So other things that we're doing is we'll be having the Great American Picnic on July 4th, always very popular. I always tell staff I want to spend $5,000 more in fireworks in Westminster, and I want to make sure we last longer. That's the truth. Summer Sundays at the Brunner Farmhouse. If you haven't been there, you got to go attend it. They got various entertainers there. And we also have at the amphitheater, in fact, a band called Deja Blue. I'm going to throw a plug to them because they actually played at Wendy and I's wedding reception years ago, and they're good friends of mine. They are a good band, so I would go listen to them. We got the Mini Ha Ha coming up on June 14th, Broomfield Day, September 19th, and that's when you can turn in your passport, because we have a council booth. That's something that we started last year, is we had the council members come to Broomfield Days, and we actually have a little area where people can come in and connect with their council members. So at 1 o'clock will be Ward 1, 2 o'clock Ward 2, 3 o'clock Ward 3, 5 o'clock, or Ward 5 will be at 12:30, and I can't remember, I think Ward 4 is at 4 o'clock, and then the mayor fills in where needed. And, but what you'll be able to do is pick up your Sacagawea dollar. First 250 pick up Sacagawea dollar, and that's important. As many of you probably know, this part of Colorado was part of the Louisiana Purchase back in 1803. That's when Jefferson bought the Louisiana Purchase. And Sacagawea, when Jefferson hired Lewis and Clark to go find out trails and that type of thing, after they went up the Missouri River, that pretty rough terrain up there. So they hired Sacagawea to be their guide. She was a bilingual Indian, Shoshone tribe, and she was able to lead Lewis and Clark. So that's very appropriate to have Sacagawea as a silver dollar because she was an Indian trail guide. And I guess that's all I have for today.